Hi everyone, my name is Lana and I am here to talk to you about how to think like a developer, being resourceful and solving problems. I'm a software engineer and a coding instructor. I went to Grand Circus in 2017 for the .NET C# coding bootcamp, and I also have my associates in computer programming. So overall, I've been coding for about 7 years, and in all of that time, I've learned a lot of things that have helped me figure out my problems faster and learn new things. And I've failed a lot, and I've realized how to become and be a better developer. I've definitely had some ups and some downs, but it's brought me to making this video for all of you. So I want to share some of those things with you and kind of go over what you can do to help you if you're a current student, if you're thinking of going into a boot camp, if you're a software engineer already. Just simple things that you can do to help you solve your problems. So first, I just want to say that anyone can be a developer. It's a skill that can be learned, but specifically what you need is to think like a developer in order to succeed. A lot of companies might want you to have a specific skill or know a specific language, but what they're going to want you to have before any of that is going to be how to problem solve, how to think your way through something and figure it out. It's very important, especially when you're going to be working for a new company, because you have to learn all of their things that you haven't used before. And not a lot of places have onboarding. So it's very important to be able to be independent and do that on your own. And it's not always going to be easy. There's going to be some late nights, there's going to be some sad times, but you have to fight through that imposter syndrome and you just got to solve your problem. The first step to solving a problem is understanding what it is. So that might be asking your project manager for more information, specific details on it. It could be going through your code step by step and actually seeing where it is breaking at. You need to understand what your problem is so that you can properly research for it. Otherwise, you're going to go down a lot of different rabbit holes and you're going to waste a lot of time. When we solve problems, we want to break them down into smaller pieces, as many as you can, so that you have a bunch of little problems to solve. It makes it much easier, and it kind of helps you figure out things on the way, if you even need all of those little things. Draw things out so that you can physically see it and logically step through it. The human brain loves to see things. It doesn't want to just type the code and understand it in those terms. It's very helpful for us to be able to see things broken down and exactly how that data is going to be incremented. It's very helpful to be able to draw things out. Another thing are flowcharts. Flowcharts are very helpful because they do all of that for you. They draw it out and they map it out and they show you a diagram of how your data is flowing in and out and where it's going and what is happening. I used a software when I went to college called Raptor, and it was when I was taking a Python class, and it was basically a flowchart software. So you had a different shape for input, output, your for loops, if statements, and you could put all of these diagrams together, and then you could basically just give it all of your if statements and you kind of give it what you want the program to do. You almost code it, but in pseudocode in a way, and then you run it, and then it will logically show you in like boxes, and it actually has diagrams and a real flow chart of what it's going to do based off of what you have told it to do. Because a lot of what our programs fail for sometimes can be that we told it to do the wrong thing in the first place, and I mean, that's never good. When you think like a developer, you know your resources. You know what you have available to you that can get this job done. You have a task at hand. You have tools that can help you complete that task. You're able to solve problems on your own that you haven't even encountered before because you know what resources are available to you. When you think like a developer, you know that if you don't understand something, you can Google it. You can look at that book that you have. You can look at any coding assignments from previous things that you have used. Think of it like a recipe and you're really hungry. What are you going to do? You're going to go and you're going to look for a recipe, for the best recipe. You're going to look through all of the recipes that look like they might be what you want, and you're going to see which ones have the right ingredients that you want or that you have, which ones work with what you need. And you're gonna find that recipe, and you're gonna compare a bunch of them, then you're gonna find that recipe. And then someone's gonna be making some cheesecake. Resources could be the technical documentation that are associated with whatever you're using. It could be a README in the GitHub repository. It could be the actual documentation linked to that project. If you have a company code base that you're working with, hopefully somebody wrote something that kind of says what it's doing. If there's any comments, you can always use comments as your resource. Hopefully, if there's detailed comments. I have tons of old coding exercises that I have done from boot camp and from college that help me greatly, whether I'm teaching or whether I am working on something at work that I don't remember how to do this one thing, or I need a refresher on this one topic. I love knowing that I learned that at one point and I understood it like that at one point. So I can go back and reference that and use it as a resource. Old coding examples are very useful, especially if you have your own library of just code that do generic things that you can use over and over again. It's always best to solve anything that you're doing before you start writing code. You don't just want to jump in and write the code. That's going to get very messy very fast, and then you might just keep going and get lost in it, and then you spend like 8 hours just crying until 5 in the I highly recommend coding tutorials because you can code along and you can see them doing it as they are talking about it, and that to me was very helpful. That was why the Grand Circus Coding Bootcamp was so helpful, was because every day we did a lecture and then we learned and we did hands-on as he taught us. So it was great to kind of like embed that knowledge as he was telling me, as I was doing it. All of those things together consistently. Great. Read your error messages. They unfortunately are your friend, even though they look scary and you don't want them. They help us, and error messages mean progress. Your error messages are going to tell you a lot of the time exactly what your problem is, exactly where it is, on what line, maybe even what position it is into the line. It gives you almost a longitude and latitude of where your issue exists. A lot of IDEs are very souped up these days to be just super friendly, badass helpers. The last thing that you want to do is just keep trying things and hoping that they work. And then maybe you try and you fail, you try, you fail, and then maybe you get lucky and it works one time. But you want to understand what it is that you're actually doing. You want to know why. You always want to be able to figure it out and learn the why and the how so that you can eventually do it on your own in the future, which is why you learn. That's why you learn. You also want to think about the business side of it, knowing when you've spent too long on a problem. You don't want to waste any more time or money. You want to be able to figure out this issue, but more efficiently. It's very important to know when you've overdone your time independently and when you're starting to waste it. So it's very important to not be shy and to reach out to others. So doing these things in the future can definitely help you cut down on some of that. So now that we know all of this, we have some simple steps that we can do every time that we need to solve our problem. Understand the problem. Ask any questions that you need to. Make sure that you have all of your details. Break it down. Plan. This includes drawing or pseudocode using any flowcharts. Solve your subproblems. Piece them all together. Oh yeah. Piece them all together, and then you make this little bird and you're like, I solved it. Given enough time with the right resources and the right amount of drive, you can do anything. You can learn anything, and you can obtain a new skill. It just takes time, resources, drive, consistency to be good at it.